If you've got yourself an Angelica oil, especially one from doTERRA, you don't want to use it until you've watched this video because not all Angelicas are the same. And that's exactly what we're going to explore right now. Recently, doTERRA released an Angelica based on traditional Chinese medicine and the Angelica root that they use there. However, what people often do is they start Googling and find reams of information on an Angelica that's native mainly to Europe. Now, this is where Latin names are really, really important. This is Angelica archangelica. Really good for the respiratory system, digestive system, and we have covered that in another video. However, the essential oil and the herb that is used in traditional Chinese medicine and is available through doTERRA is not this Angelica. It's Angelica Sinensis, and it has very different chemistry and very different properties. And that is what we're going to explore in this video. To help me explore that, of course, I'm joined by Liz. How are you today, Liz?
I'm looking forward to this a lot because I made this mistake. I've talked on other videos about Angelica root and just assumed that the Angelica root that you were using was the same Angelica root that I was using. But I would always use Angelica archangelica for my work. I'd never even come into contact with Angelica Sinensis, which is the Chinese one. So when I've sat down and done with the GCMS and looked at the chemistry, really, really different oils. So I thought it's time to set the record straight. So I've got a few notes to say the least. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what you know, because I know that you've had some lessons lately about the Chinese medicine side. So let's start from that.
Yeah, it's been my real passion as doTERRA has been exploring more these Chinese medicine oils. So we've had oils like Shisandra. We've done a video on that one. Make sure you check that out. We've looked at different things such as, I've gone blank. They've got other ones coming out like ginseng and mugwort and all these really interesting oils, but totally different Latin names and different properties in that way. We know traditional Chinese medicine is such an amazing modality that I've been actually leaning into over the last few years on my health journey with my glandular fever and my exhaustion and different things like that to help regain balance in that way. And we had the experience of a great traditional Chinese medicine doctor, originally from China, now living in Melbourne, Australia, who works with both herbs and the essential oils in his practice with his patients and his clients. Basically, what he talked about this one being really good for is warming, moving, and tonifying the blood. And so if we kind of look at a broad picture of that, and I'll allow you to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, Liz, but this is going to be really great for anything to do with blood. So what's that? That's going to be the women's menstrual cycle and helping to regulate that. It's going to be really great for heart health and also really great for the liver as well. And he talked a little bit about angry liver, and he finds essential oils work really well on the energetic and the emotional state. And we tend to hold anger in our liver, and Angelica root would be a really great one to work with for that. So there's kind of your broad overview from what I've kind of gathered, but I want to know what's on those reams of paper you've got in front of you, Liz.
Well, so this was a very, very long discussion with myself and AI of going, no, that's not right. So the first thing that I wanted to be able to ascertain was, can we say the same things about the traditional Chinese medicine and the essential oil? And the kind of the key to that is, do we know what causes the magic in the TCM? And if we can identify that constituents, because we can't always, but if we can identify the key constituent, is that able to pass through to distillation into the essential oil? And do we know if it is in the essential oil? So I did think, well, I've got a huge battle ahead of me, but actually the scientists had done the work already. So you're quite right that it's very much blood and feminine issues. And in TCM, it's known as the female ginseng, that it's so good for fortifying and bringing up fertility. And so they would use it, for example, somebody who got scanty periods, but likewise somebody who got really, really heavy periods, and perhaps it was making them like anemic, which happens to a lot of women, especially a lot of young women. When their periods first start, they have that awful flooding. And so that's how it would be used in TCM. And also for women who have had babies and that exhaustion that takes over the body, trust me, it's a thing, especially for the women who have had hemorrhages, but also just when you're breastfeeding and you just everything's gone. It's to bring health and vitality back. And in TCM, they would put it into wine, to put the Angelica root into wine, or they'd make a decoction with it. And so they drink these. It's quite a bitter herb. So the quite bitter wines. But when the scientists have looked, they've said, right, so the main constituent that does all the good stuff is called, are you ready? Z dash ligustulide. So to me, I can't understand. It kind of is always going to be langoustine in my head. So I don't know how we've got to crayfish, but in my head it has. So if I do talk about crayfish, that's what's happened. But this ligustulide makes up 61 to 69% of the essential oil. So not only does it pass through distillation, but it's pretty much 3/4 of the essential oil. So any more than that, we kind of don't need to really dig that much, because we're like, well, the magic's definitely there. But also there's about 10% monoterpenes, so we know that it's going to have this like kind of antibacterial quality, although mildly, but it's going to be nice and uplifting. Also about the same amount of sesquiterpenes, which are quite soothing. So it's quite a nice balancing emotional side. But on my notes, I think probably I can't really see the emotional side of things. I can just see the blood side of things. And regular viewers will know that that will float my boat, because I'm a blood junkie, because I've got dodgy blood. And so I am a thrombophiliac. That means that my blood clots. So there will be other people out there like that. I would say this is possibly an oil that you might want to think twice about, because I think it will really thicken the blood. I haven't been able to find any safety around it. So I'm going to make an educated guess based on the chemistry. And I would have said you probably could use safely up to 3%, but I would use at 2% to be safe. And I would also be a little bit concerned if somebody was on blood thinners, or had a platelet clotting disorder, so maybe haemophilia or something like that. If you're factor 5 Leiden, I think that you are going to want to look carefully at this and talk carefully to your doctor before using it, because it is going to screw with your blood, and I can't see any science that tells us what it's going to do to your blood. But if you have normal blood, then I think this is a really, really good oil to use, especially for young women that flood. In the liver, because when we're talking about the liver, that is the emotion that's associated with it. And the liver is well, it's got so many different functions, but it processes not just our food, but pharmaceuticals. So it can, if somebody's on a lot of drugs, it can get quite toxic. It's also the foreman of the body. And if we kind of doing lots and lots of different jobs, don't like that. So quite often the liver can get quite toxic. and that can be difficult for people who are in issues of stress and things like that. So I think this is a really interesting oil for people to start looking at for stress as well. Did you say much about this anger in the liver side? Because I've not heard that before, so that's interesting to me.
Not basically just talking about what the hold on, let me start that again. He spoke about that you can the trained eye, and you know when people have an angry liver, you can see it in their personality. It is those people that almost like, I guess those people that look like their blood is boiling, or almost that kind of energy. And he said, for that, this is a really great oil. And I guess when we get into the energetics of it, it's a root oil, and root oils help to ground us. It also does have that connection, being an angelica, to the angel realms. So someone who is fired up, their blood is boiling, it's really going to help to soothe that, to help to tonify the blood and help support the liver on a physical level, but also to help ground you a little bit and sedate the anger, and to maybe help you kind of connect with those angelic realms and go, hold on, am I sweating the small stuff? Am I going to make decisions that are maybe dangerous for for myself in the long term or for other people, and to kind of tone that down? Does that make sense?
Yeah, just completely. And so really kind of an anti-inflammatory mechanism within the emotions, but it also has this anti-inflammatory nature as a plant, as a herb. And there's quite a lot of experiments been done to trace exactly what it does. I'm going to read because I'm never going to remember this. So it says, significantly restored prostaglandin E2, histamine, and 5-hydroxytryptamine levels in inflammatory fluid. 5-hydroxytryptamine is 5-HTA, which is related to serotonin. Inhibited release of TNF alpha and other inflammatory mediators, suppressed NF-κB and MAPK signaling pathways, and reduced macrophage inflammatory protein release. So this is good for things like arthritis and conditions where there's inflammation in the joints and in the muscles. And so those people who've got like rheumatic conditions and arthritic conditions that are made worse by the cold, poor circulation, we've seen how it's very good for circulation. So really good to be used in massage. The herb's also known to have a cardiovascular effect. It vasodilates and relaxes smooth muscles too. So I think this is a lovely oil. I'd be really interested to hear if people start experimenting what they see in their case histories. I think you would see really fast effects on things like arthritis and circulation, and just maybe gout as well, because gout's kind of an angry kind of condition, isn't it, as well?
Sorry to interrupt for just a moment. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Sixth Sense. Now, you're probably getting rather excited about essential oils, and you might be tempted to go out and just grab some. But did you know the essential oil world is not regulated, and a lot of what it says on the label is not governed by anyone? A fun fact, which is not so fun, is that 75% of all oils that are sold as pure, natural, or organic lavender are not even from a plant. So how do you know what's real? Well, I went looking for that question a long time ago, and I found doTERRA to be a really reliable source of high quality essential oils. They don't just test their oils themselves, but at the end of the process, they have an independent third party verify and double check their oils to make sure that you are getting what nature intended purely from the plant. They also source where nature intended the plants to grow as well. If you want to grab hold of some essential oils from doTERRA, then I offer a discount code, and this is available no matter where you are in the world. Now, I don't want everyone to get essential oils. I want everyone to use essential oils. So when you become one of my customers, you get access to me and my VIP education platforms, ongoing discounts, ongoing freebies, live classes in all time zones all around the world, and so much more. So if you're interested in getting some essential oils that you know are really from nature, and this is important not only physically, but metaphysically as well, please reach out in the links below.
One thing I guess we do have to discuss is its aroma. It definitely has a very earthy aroma. The best way I can describe it is it reminds me of when you walk into a Chinese herbalist shop and that kind of musty kind of scent that you get there. So interesting when we're talking about massage, and we often think massage is quite relaxing and regenerating, and we come out feeling good. Whereas I'm wondering whether we would just use this oil purely by itself, or whether we might need to blend it with something a little nicer to kind of take away some of that such earthy, musty kind of aroma. What do you think?
I don't know, because I haven't smelt it.
Yeah.
I'm still campaigning for Adam to send me some of this. I'm only working off a GCMS. But yeah, I would have thought these kinds of oils like to be blended, don't they? And so something for circulation. Let me throw a couple of oils at you and you tell me what you think that they would smell like with it. My circulatory blend would be geranium black pepper. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would be a really nice one. That would kind of, the black pepper would kind of counteract the aroma of the Angelica, and the geranium's going to bring that nice floral. So that could work quite well. Would be a really great one.
So periods then. And ordinarily I would go lavender, rose, clary sage. I feel like probably clary sage is probably the one I'd want to change out. So what would lavender and rose smell like with it?
I think that would smell great again. And as you were listing those three, I'm like, actually, I would probably be inclined to use all four. Would there be any harm in that?
No, but when you're doing blending synergistically, you should use 3 oils to bring them up. But you would normally go top, middle, and base note. I'm guessing that it's a middle note. Would you say?
Middle to base, it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, so oils that tend to work on the blood obviously work on the heart, and so you tend to get heart notes, which is a very strange freak of nature. I think we just say that as if it's an ordinary thing, but if you think about it, the fact that you can actually think about what the properties are and what they'll be able to smell like is phenomenal to me. So arthritis, then I would probably go juniper, lavender, juniper, and yeah, those two. So lavender, juniper, and Angelica Sinensis. What's your thoughts on that?
Yep, I think that would work similar to your first one. The juniper would have a similar effect to the black pepper, kind of, working around that level, and the lavender would be the thing that would bring the nice aroma to the blend, for sure.
Have you ever worked with ply?
Very rarely. It's in my collection. I know it's a kind of yin version of ginger, but not one I confidently can talk about a lot.
So could you imagine copaiba, ply, Angelica Sinensis?
Yeah, I think that would be there's nothing nice about that aroma. I'm not saying it's unpleasant, but there's definitely nothing winning. But copaiba I find doesn't have much of an aroma at all. Ply has that kind of ginger-esque aroma to it, so it'd be very very, very effective. But it's not going to win the award for best smelling blend of the year.
Yeah, I think it would be really good for aches and pains in the muscles, though. So interesting. So those of you who are working with it out there, I want to learn from you. Please put some remarks in the comments. I've only got Adam and actually Vanessa's wisdom to draw off so far. So please add to the conversation and let the people who are not using Sinesis know how you feel about it. It's a pricey oil, is it not?
It is. At the moment, a 5 ml bottle is 270 Australian dollars. And that's just the case when it comes to these new oils. They're experimental oils and they're small lots of land, small farms, and seeing how they go. And as we know, but I guess what your mission and my mission is the more we can educate people about it, we create demand, we create resources, and people invest in it, and things like this. It doesn't need to be that expensive. As time goes on, hopefully the price will drop as more farms start taking it on because more people want the essential oil. And I think the fact of, being nicknamed women's ginseng and what it can do for the blood and, supporting the menstrual cycle and reproductive system, heart and liver, that's kind of an essential oil, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of see these oils a bit like neurodegeneration, like you use it or lose it. Do you know what I mean? If doTERRA don't sell it, then why would they continue producing? And I do think that this is an oil that definitely has a place in our box. I think in a way I'll speak with my aromatherapy head on now, that there can be some snobbery of saying we don't deal with doTERRA. There's a lot of aromatherapists who say, I just don't like doTERRA oils. But I think that there is a huge demand for new oils, and this one is a really good one to experiment with. I think it's worth putting your politics aside to have a go with this one for sure. So I don't know, have you done any thoughts about the spiritual side of it? Any thoughts about planetary rulership, chakras, anything like that? Because I have nothing to add to that conversation.
Yeah, for spirituality, it feels shallow, but it feels quite a profound oil in that way. People that like working with past lives and that type of energy, it's amazing how many Cleopatras I've met in my life, type of thing. And no one's been a bus driver in Cleveland. But I think if you have an attachment, I know for myself, I personally have these drawings to parts of Asia, but I have no lineage. I do have an adopted sister from Korea, but we were joking on the weekend that I'm more Korean than she is, in my interest in K-pop and K-beauty and K-dramas. But I think if you want to go down that kind of Eastern knowledge, or that in past lives, there's something that really grounds you. It works really well probably with the Earth Star chakra, that connection to the Asian land, but also the Incarnator chakra. Now that's below the Earth Star chakra, and that connects us to our past tribes and communities and our ancestry, maybe not of this body and of this DNA, but of our soul. And I do wonder sometimes, although our DNA is passed on from grandparents to grandparents and so on, does our soul carry that DNA? I think it kind of jets around the planet and kind of goes, let's have a lifetime here, and let's have a lifetime here, and let's experience it here. So I think our DNA is one lineage that we have, but I think our soul has another lineage. And I believe this Angelica root, the Sinesis, is a really great one for connecting with that Eastern spiritual DNA. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Planetary rulership, I was thinking maybe Pluto. What's your thoughts?
Maybe Pluto. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think it's a white flowering plant. Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't know.
It could have a bit of a lunar energy to it as well, but yeah, I'm not too fixed on that either at the moment. I'd have to dive a little bit more, but it's
So Pluto rules circulation, the blood, Venus, but also it does fall under Venus as well. Venus, the planet Venus, the veins. So yeah, interesting. So I am really fascinated to hear how people are using it. So if you are a doTERRA user out there, I want you to try and educate us, please. We are going to listen. What you're using it for? How are you finding it?
Yep. And if you haven't got yourself some yet and you wanted to get your hot little hands on it, my details are down below. Shoot me a message, and it's available for a limited time. So hopefully you see this video in time and we can get your bottle to try out as well. Wherever you are in the world, I can get it to you, as long as there's a postal system, for sure.
What we'll do actually is make sure our end screen goes to the other Angelica. Angelica Archangelica, so that you can compare the two, because I think it's important to know you've got the right one and you know how to use it.
For sure. Would I be right in saying, as a generalization, the European Angelica Archangelica, respiratory and digestive, the Angelica Sinensis from the East is more kind of blood, liver, heart, menstrual? Would that be a good generalization?
It's a really good generalization. And the European one is phototoxic. This one is not.
Amazing. Beautiful. We'll be back very, very soon to explore more magic from Mother Nature and her essential oils. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye-bye.
I'm Elizabeth Ashley, UK Director for the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy and founder of the Aromatic Mystery School, where essential oils meet the deeper, more mystical side of healing. Here you'll explore the spiritual, emotional and energetic dimensions of plants and learn how to weave them into your own rituals and well-being practices. If you're ready to work in a way that nourishes both your soul and your senses, join us at the Aromatic Mystery School. The link's right below.